the Grey Cup champ. Well, the 2019 Grey Cup champions. There is no reigning Grey Cup champion as per the Sports Cage. Abdicated in 2020. It's the king, the guy who was going to be king but fell in love with a divorced woman. They're abdicated.
All right.
Winnipeg Blue Bombers. My one big question for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, I kind of wonder about their wide receivers, but they lost both their boundary defensive backs, who I thought were fantastic in Winston Rose and Marcus Sales, and the rest of the league and everybody watching thought they were fantastic. So I'm nothing special on that. How do they replace that is a real question. Their defensive line, fantastic. Linebackers, bring it on. But I see a list of a bunch of names, and some of them we know well, and some of them we know a little bit. But who takes over? I mean, that boundary halfback spot might be the critical spot in the defensive backfield. Who takes that? Who's the boundary corner that is tasked with shutting down Shaq Evans on Banjo Bowl Labor Day? That combo. Other than that, I mean, their roster looks nice, but the boundary defensive back spots, those two to me are my biggest question for what Winnipeg does in this season.
Could have gone here with my one big question for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers with some offensive line talk, because I think that's fair, the evolution that they've had, although they're still super, super stable. I mean, all things considered, when you look at the tackle positions and all the rest, they're locked in. It's the interior that I'm wondering how that's going to develop as the season goes on. But my real question here is more about celebrating Winnipeg's greatness, I think, at what they are best at, which is defensive end play. And my one big question is, how many combined knockdowns do Jackson and Willie get? How many combined sacks do they get? Like, if we are adding up totals of defensive ends across the league, how much further ahead everybody else are they in every category? Because there's been a couple of times this offseason, I've seen the videos of them training. They didn't lose a step. Like, they're not waiting around. They're not, COVID restrictions, I can't go to the gym and lift. No, they're making their own lifts. Like, they're making their own runs. They're finding their own hills. And those guys, they're driven, they're smart, which I think is something that's super underrated, because everybody looks at Willie and they go, oh, athletic freak, and he just gets away with stuff. Well, sure, once in a while, like, he'll overreach and then he'll have to dive back and he'll make a freaky tackle or something. But by and large, he recognizes, he reads. And if you watch what he did to Chris Van Zyl and Riker Matthews in the Grey Cup, he's got way more pass rush moves than we give him credit for. We all think that he's just the string bean arm guy who can just overextend you and walk you backwards. He does so much more than that. So my question is just, how great can they be? Because they're going to be great. There's no question about that. The crazy thing is, too, they both stay really healthy, which at that position, typically you get a couple of guys ding. Maybe it's their interior guys who wear a little bit more of the brunt, but they're sending doubles to those guys. They're chipping those guys with the running back a little bit more than any other defensive end, and they still stay pretty healthy and they still stay really productive. So I'm just excited to see them. Again, it's one of those things where when we get confirmation the schedule comes out and the season's going to go ahead, you start to wonder about what teams are going to look like. And one of the first things that came to my mind before we even decided we were going to do this for the podcast today was, how good is it going to be to see Willie Jefferson back in a CFL uniform, dancing around, showing off the grill, having fun? Because when Willie is at his best, it's one of, if not the best players in the entire CFL.
Let's see. Sacks plus holding penalties drawn plus tackles for a loss plus knockdowns at the line. Jackson Jeffcoat and Willie Jefferson. I remember Jeffcoat was on the 6th game in 2019, so he played only they played 18 plus 3 playoff games, so 21. He played only 15 games. They had 61 of those plays between the two of them, which is by far the most of any duo in the league. 61, we stopped you or knocked you back plays just from those two alone. They are fantastic. And oh, by the way, they re-signed Jonathan Kongbo, the Canadian.
That seemed unfair. I really felt like that seemed unfair. When I saw that re-sign, I'm not sure what's a more unfair re-signing, though. Is it Lacey or is it Kongbo? Because I think you're going to see more starting reps, obviously, from Lacey and likely more of an impact. But the Kongbo thing, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, but they don't even need that. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, you can spell Jake Thomas and throw 3 defensive ends at somebody. Like, by the way, Steven Richardson is really good on the interior. So, by the way, Teodric Hansen is probably back. Like, things are going to be.
There's a lot of good players in the CFL, eh?
There really are when you really start to look at it.